Talk about helping styles in cybersecurity. So, Aaron, take us away.
Thank you very much. Well, good morning. Great to see you all for day two. For those that I haven't had the pleasure of meeting or haven't read the speaker's notes because they're just here for the CTF or the swag, my name's Aaron. A little bit about myself. I'm part of the application security team at Korea, where we build cyber safety software for children. Before that, I was a software engineer before making my way into AppSec, mainly web apps and all the fun stuff like that, before making the internal switch to security within Korea. And now I am currently studying chaplaincy, which is a great thing to do when alongside full-time work, because I'm always got all the time. But this is where the idea for this talk came from, so I'll touch that in a second. And finally, this is my first time speaking at a conference, so any feedback after the talk, after the conference would be great. Thanks. Thank you. So as mentioned, I recently started studying chaplaincy because it is kind of relevant to a lot of the volunteer work that I do. And I admit it's been a major shift from kind of technical knowledge to how to care for people. Within the course content, I've been introduced to a concept called the Helping Styles Inventory, which was created by Peter Van Katwijk. 1988 it was created and refined in 1995. And it's basically for carers, how to provide, or a framework, how to provide care to people that are in front of us. So it's a model to help carers such as chaplains or counsellors or whoever helps work for others to care for them. It kind of describes different ways that we are able to try and support someone. And everyone has a default style that they may use or may have. But understanding how you can switch your style a little bit allows us to help serve people well. And now I want to see how we can apply this to cybersecurity. At the core of the model is the idea of self and relationship. In pastoral care and counselling, we are the resource. And I think this actually really maps well to cybersecurity as well. Us as cybersecurity engineers are subject matter experts. We are the resource that we can provide to others. So to understand how we can apply this to security, let's construct the model step by step. On the horizontal axis, we have what is called the focus of attention. Our attention can fluctuate between being focused on a person and then person and experiences, or being focused on a task. In counselling, chaplaincy would call this task like a problem such as anxiety or depression. On the vertical axis, we have the use of power, which on one end is being directive, so instructing and telling, and on the other end, we can be facilitative, emphasising the person, affirming them, and allowing them to draw on their support networks and experiences. Now, each of the quadrants have a defined helping style, which we'll dive into in a sec, and each style has certain elements or actions associated with it. So, in the middle here, these are kind of the actions that you're taking. From here, let's dive into each style. Starting from the top right and going clockwise, we have the guide. This is this is someone being person-oriented, but also direct. They are the ones informing, coaching, directing others. A few examples will just be Dumbledore or Alfred Pennyworth. Both direct the people that they care for. In this case, Harry Potter and Bruce Wayne, if you didn't know, be surprised if you didn't. But they rather guide people. For example, Alfred reminding Bruce of his humanity and his duty. The celebrant is someone who's all about connecting with and supporting and empowering people. Phoebe from Friends is an example of this, but I think this is best summed by the first talk jitters. This is best summed up by Mr. Rogers. He connects with and affirms every person. And just as an aside, because I really love this example, when African Americans were not allowed to swim with white people, Mr. Rogers invited Francois Clemens, aka Officer Clemens, you can see down the bottom there, a black man, to cool his feet with him, tackling racial inequality by connecting with and affirming Clemens' value, as well as empowering him by assisting with his musical career. But I digress. Moving on, we have the consultant, who is focused on the problem, but helps others by attempting to empower them to make a difference. They talk things out, they help explore and collaborate with others. Lucius Fox from Batman is a good example. He's task-oriented, so he's focused on the problem, while providing Batman with the abilities to solve the problem. Another out-there example is Dr. House. His differential diagnosis in front of the whiteboard sessions, where he explores diseases with his team, and kind of finds the solution to the problem, aka the diagnosis, is a consultant style. Although I don't want to hear from anyone complaining that HR got annoyed at them because you just belittled your teammates while trying to do this. Don't copy house. Be nice. And finally, the manager. They focus on the task and are often instructing over facilitating. So they suggest, advise, and at the extreme end, instruct others what to do. You've got Nick Fury at the top there, telling people what to do in order to complete the task at hand. Or a real-world example would be Gordon Ramsay. He uses highly directive, albeit colourful language, to get the task of managing a kitchen and serving dishes accomplished. So that's a high-level overview of the model. Now that we've defined it, we can start applying it to our relationships within the workplace and in cybersecurity. However, this is where the usage between carers and engineering start to split. In pastoral care and counselling, in one conversation we may split between different styles. An example of this, just to give you an insight, is an example we were given by our lecturers of a counsellor making 8 statements back to a client, scored all of his statements like this. I think that's outside of the scope for this today, but I do want to talk about how we can use this as engineering managers working in the workplace. So focusing on us as engineers, understanding that we are the resource that can be used to help others allows us to become force multipliers. If I'm the only one that knows about SQL injection, and please forgive the bad example, if I spend my time reviewing code and adding prioritized queries, I would spend most of my time at work doing this. However, choosing instead to share my knowledge means that vulnerabilities are not written in the first place or that others can fix them when they find them. A much better use of my time. I've managed to take my resource and multiply the effect. Now, I just want to stop here to clearly articulate why this is important. If you are in a small team like I am that has a lot of stakeholders, you have developers to train and coach, you have managers that you need to help understand the risk and the effects of exploits and vulnerabilities. You have to understand how to engage with these stakeholders effectively. As a security team, our goal is to manage risk. It is less of a burden on yourself when you bring others along with you. So when we remember Van Katwick's model, as we create programs and engage with stakeholders, we can take a step back and choose how we want to help. I think a few examples will help with this. So I am responsible for a couple hundred developers myself. Unfortunately, our team is quite small, so it's not reasonable for me to be very hands-on when it comes to patching or fixing. I find a lot of my time comes from providing information such as secure code guidelines or patterns for security for developers to follow. So the style that I would just be stepping into here would be the guide. I am informing, I am coaching, I am directing. I also meet with managers and developers to help them with security-related projects. This is a very conversational approach, and any issues that arise, we explore and collaborate. This is a consultant style. This can include things like threat modeling or working through designs with team to make sure they're shifting left and writing secure code in the first place. But we need to remember that particular helping styles may come more naturally to people. You may find that styles that may come easier. The above two are what comes naturally for me. The next two I have to make a conscious effort to step into. The celebrant would be most likely to get involved with developers and championing them on. I think that's due to the fact that I am a limited resource and I struggle to find the time to be involved. I have 200 developers to look after. I struggle to take on this style. But if a consultant cares about empowering people and being person-oriented, they would more likely ask open questions to help developers get to the places themselves. Think questions like, well, what should we consider as a mitigating control here? Why is this secure? Empowering developers to discover things themselves and facilitating their growth. This can allow people to feel more accomplished as they are empowered to uplift the security control of their code. And finally, the manager. They may start with suggestions, but I think this can easily progress into advising and instructing. This can be mandating security controls, setting standards, or rejecting the designs based on security. Or when we have something that requires security to take control, such as the scary words like incident and breach, then a manager has to be put on pretty hard, and security is instructing because you've got stuff to do and you've got to get it done now. Time is critical. So this model also applies, and I think it applies a lot better to a manager and an engineer relationship. So thinking managers, how you interact with your team of engineers. You can utilize the different styles in relationship with your subordinates. Remembering that we have a default style of helping that may not be the best for each engineer. If you have a bunch of engineers who just like to get stuff done, you just give them a Jira ticket and they'll go away and come back with a solution. Manager style, great. But if you're a junior that is kind of just starting their career, you may need to flip between, say, the guide and the celebrant to help them learn, to encourage them, and be very orientated on their growth. So coming to the end of the talk, I feel like I've rushed through it. Understanding how we can employ different styles of relationships, styles of help in our workplaces, allows us to work more effectively with others. Now this is not the only model that you would use. However, I like applying this model because it comes from the basis of relationship. When we are the resource and that resource is limited, it is a relationship that is most powerful. It means that our effect stops being from what we do to what we help others do, which is often more than what we can do ourselves. And when we're a team, we're security, we are focused on reducing risk. If we can empower others to help reduce that risk, it's a win for us as well. So this is just a tool I have in my belt, so to speak. Remembering it can allow you to help others in the best way possible. Now that you may know this model, you might be able to use it, or you may choose to use it. I hope that you're able to utilize it in your roles, no matter what they can be. But knowing this model can be used anywhere is great. Whether it be in a caring role, like potentially myself in the future, a management role, an engineering role, or even outside of the workplace. Like, think if you got kids, stepping a different style might really be beneficial to them. So I absolutely feel like I blasted through that, but that's all I have for today. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Finished so quickly he hasn't realized. Questions, anyone? No, it's not the most technical talk, but I enjoy the content. Cole.
Where did you get inspired for the model at all? Like, because often people don't come to these things when they're in an AppSec role, they have to come from an entirely different discipline.
Yeah, so it's because I've started studying chaplaincy, so caring for people. So Peter Van Katwijk was a therapist, so that's where he's kind of developed this from, and understanding how I walk into a situation to care for people, to help them in whatever distress or problem they're in. It's from that content, seeing yourself, you have a default style that might not be the best, and if you really want to care for someone well, understanding you might have to switch styles is really important. I think, did I see another hand? I'm sorry, I don't know your name, so we'll go up the front first.
What's been the most interesting style that you've come across, or the most interesting scenario where you've had to swap styles together?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the most interesting style, and the one that I personally love, is the celebrant. And I don't get to do it much, as mentioned, in the workplace, just because of the time, but in my volunteer work, really caring and empowering people, because if you empower someone, they take that positive effect and can uplift themselves. Versus if you say manager, or you just say, get this done, get this done, get this done, you kind of make someone just feel like a yes monkey, just get stuff done. But I've come to the massive conclusion that people matter more. You empower someone, they do better work, and they reduce the risk better than just making sneak work. So I saw a question up the back there. Yep.
Any thought that trying to do training or trying to get those ideas through to your team, to your technical team?
I haven't yet in the workplace. This is just a speech or presentation I've come up for today. I have thought about how would I disseminate this further. So once I figure out how to add this to my blog, it's the slide deck. It'll be up in there, but I haven't really thought about doing in-person training for anything like that yet. Oh, I think Cole was first.
Sorry. If someone's incredibly unsophisticated in any of the 4 categories, what would you help them get coaching to work on it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the work has to be just the realization about your default style first. Like, you find out a lot of, say, counseling and therapy, it's bringing the unconscious into the conscious. So being aware of your unconscious tendencies. Like, you might not be aware that you take a manager role, so you just bark orders. Well, bark orders is a wrong term, but you're very instructive to say, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. But becoming aware that the other styles exist, so all 4 of them, allows you to say, okay, maybe this style isn't working. how can I best empower the team? And it's actually changing yourself instead of saying, Joe's useless, he's not learning because he won't listen to me, versus, okay, Joe's not listening, or he's not learning, what am I doing wrong? Is there something I can be better at? So it takes the onus off of, I guess the best thing is to take the onus off of the person that's in front of you and ask, how can I be better? Which is, I think, a very uncomfortable thing of you have to admit your own flaws there, which not many people like doing. I don't. I think there's your hand up there.
Yeah. I think when you are learning a new way of doing things, you need to be able to recognise the context to be able to then switch.
Yep.
What are some of the signifiers for you that you might need to use a different approach in different situations?
I think the first thing is try and understand the situation before you enter into it. Yeah, it is taking a step back and like, what's the goal here?
Yeah.
The example I gave of like me being the guide for developers is, as much as I'd love to come alongside and celebrate them and encourage them and be very relational, I can't. Like, I have developers in all the time zones, which means my sleeping schedule is just non-existent. But then it is when you're in the middle of a situation and you might be asking, why isn't this working? Why aren't they responding the way you expect? Taking that step back. And some people actually remain like, don't really do this in a work from home environment, but taking a physical step back and like, okay, what's going on here? How can I be better? What do these people need? Because at the end of the day, we are the resource in relationship with the people that we're trying to empower. It's not so much about us, it's about them. So empowering them to think about security and manage risk, again, makes us a force multiplier over just, I'm in a terminal, I just get stuff done. Yep.
Hi, what in style do you find any combinations that complement each other, or alternatively do the opposite?
I think the styles that complement each other are kind of ones on the same axis. So to me, I like to be very person oriented, so I kind of want to fit in the celebrant, so mainly my volunteer work, and in the guide as well, knowing that I have to give the resources out or empower others. So I think, yeah, it's understanding the axes here, so focus of attention, person, task. So it's a consultant and manager, task oriented. I think that would work very well depending on the context, but you kind of, if I go back a little bit, this thing, you kind of, the way you interact kind of fits in one place, and then you might shift a little bit and say, okay, maybe need a bit more direct action saying you need to be doing this, versus, okay, the direct approach isn't working, how do I empower them and lift them up? Yeah, does that answer your question? Cool, thank you. Yes?
Obviously, there's like soft skills and pros and heads that you need to use when you're dealing with different parts of the business, HR, finance.
Yep.
Technical people, which looks like would be more of a consultant. How does it work when you're working with executives and you're working with the leadership that have a different role? So then you're switching how do you lead them?
Yeah, good question. Are you asking a question like, how do you lead up the chain?
Yeah, because you use different heads. You be like when you're talking to the people you're managing,
Yep.
you're looking towards like focusing on the persons. When you're talking to the leadership, you focus on the task.
Yep.
Because if you're talking too much like about the end user, they might get like oh, you're talking too much or you're going too much around. So you basically like focus on different tasks, like when you're talking to different audience, or you try to keep yourself in one of these styles. That's the goal.
I think I would switch styles based on the context of what I'm trying to do, and then after that, map a certain style to a person. So you're talking about how we manage and expose vulnerabilities up the chain and work with executives to reduce risk. I think most executives that I've encountered, they're very task oriented. They have metrics to fill, they have shareholders to report to, they have the board that they need to respond to as well. So being very like manager, suggesting and advising, saying, hey, we got this vulnerability, it's going to cost X hours to complete. I advise that we fix this because the cost is going to be this. So you're being very direct and you're solving the problem. I think the other way also as a consultant is, again, conversing and exploring, So maybe they're not so direct, but you can explore, okay, we have this vulnerability. What happens if this happens to the company? Like if we have mass PII leak, what's going to happen? Share price tanks, we lose a bunch of customers. So you're taking on that exploratory and you are kind of facilitating their understanding of the risk and the issue there. No more questions? I was surprised there was one. Cool. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. It was a really good talk.